Okay, we're back on the floor again. Here's a shot of where we're at right now. I've got the front and the back bead ends put in, and we've got just a little problem with the bead not being perfectly flat. I'll put a straight edge on that for you. And we've got a little gap right in this area here. And the panel, it's got a little stress in it still. You can see it flopping around. So we're going to try and get that relaxed out of there so it lays nice, so our hat channel welds in there nice. And we're going to head over, and what I'm going to do is run this through the slip roll. And I'm going to run it one direction, then flip it, run it the other direction, and we'll try and get that, that sag out of the bead a little bit. So we're going to set up at the slip roll, and I'll see you over there. Okay, I've got the rear floor just started in the slip roll, and we're going to try and get this panel relaxed a little bit. We're going to stretch it one way, then creep up on it the other way to get the beads flat. So I'm going to roll it through now, and we'll see how it works out. I got my helper today. He's going to go and support it on the other side. Okay, grab it there. Just don't let it move down. Push it up. Push it up. Push it up. Okay, that's the first direction. I'm going to roll it back again, and we'll take it out, and we'll flip it, and roll it the other direction. And that'll start to relax those beads and get them nice and straight. Okay, coming back. Just keep supporting it. Push it out. Yeah, come on. Ready, straight in. Alright, hit the button. Okay, we've got the panel turned around there. We've got beads up this time. And we're just going to continue to run it through there and get the panel relaxed and start to get the beads straightened out. So here it goes through this way. Okay, we'll get that looked at, and we'll see what kind of adjustment we need to make, and we'll be right back with you. Okay, I think you can see that okay. That's our final pass through the slip roll. That 14 gauge has been beating us up all day, but we finally got it flat. There's my wife Maria. She's usually the photographer. She's on the other end of the panel today. We did the high-speed planishing earlier, and we're going to backtrack a little bit, and I'll show you what the high-speed planishing looked like, and we'll meet you back over at the bench. Okay, here's the floor on the bench. I've got it lightly clamped so that we could try and see where we need to do just a tiny bit more shrinking. And right in areas like this, you can see that's up a little bit. So we'll come in here with the jaw shrinker, and we'll start shrinking this down to can see it's a little puckery in there. We'll get that straightened out. We'll put a few more shrinks in here. You can see I was already working over in this area with my red lines here. So we'll get that shrunk into place and lay flat. And we got just a little bit more to do in the front here. You can see it still wants to pop up. So what we're going to do is probably start on this bead and give some shrinks at the end of each bead and just sneak up on it, and that'll start laying flat. And then we'll start working on the just get the bend here in the front right along the beads. We'll bend the sides and the back next. So I'm going to get set up at the kick shrinker and do a little more shrinking on that, and then put the bends in. Okay, I was telling you when we came off the slip roll that we did our high-speed planishing, and there's a shot of the bead right there, and it's got the perfect shape, and it's very smooth. And if you remember me putting the beads in, we were going real slow. Pomax was set on low speed, and we were just, you know, kind of going real easy putting that bead in there. Now I got a sample piece here. This is the sample piece. It's just a kind of a mess, but when I was setting up the dies to make the bead, I put this in here. I'll show you the difference in the machine from just getting the raw beads in to final planishing. You'll hear the difference, and you'll see the speed is quite a bit higher, and that's what gives you that real nice smooth bead. And we're going to go over to the Pomax next and do that. Okay, you probably heard the difference in the Pomax. That was a super short stroke, and this is how you adjust the stroke on this machine. So when we were putting the beads in, we were on the longest stroke, and then it's just as easy as pulling this lever, and that's the setting on number 1 that you planish on, and it's just the tiniest bit of stroke, and we put the machine up to maximum speed. And that's what really sets the bead down perfectly and gives it that final profile. So I just wanted to show you guys that. And we'll continue on the floor. We're probably going to call it a day today, but we'll continue on the floor and be back maybe tomorrow and try and get the bends in. And we'll talk more about the hat channel. Okay, see you then. Okay, we've got the panel upside down, and we're going to put that front bend in. And that one's right close to these beads. The factory put it real close to the edge of the bead. So we've got it clamped in our 8-foot brake here. It's 14 gauge. We've got the bending apron on because it's going to be tough to bend, and we'll go ahead and try and get that bend in now. Okay, we're getting ready to put that last bend in the floor panel, so I've got to do that one on the box and pan brake, and I've got it set up with some fingers, and we're going to put the final bend in there, and then I'll show you what it looks like back on the bench. And there's not a lot of room in here where the finger brake is, so I don't know if I can set up the camera here, but we'll take you back over to the bench and show you it all bent up. Okay, here we are back on the bench, and I've got it clamped up with some channel here just to keep it rigid. There's our back bend, there's our side bend, and our front bend is in. there's the other side. Now, like I say, this is 14 gauge, so it's kind of a bear to handle, but when I get a floor made, I keep these two pieces of channel around just to keep it flat. And when I'm going to put the hat channel in areas like here and over here, I keep it clamped nice and straight, and then I spot weld the hat channel in, and it keeps it nice and rigid. So I've got it set up like that now, and we're going to be working on the hat channel next, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but I'll flip it over and show you the other side, and show you what's happening. Okay, here's the top side. It's just sitting on these clamps, so it's kind of sitting a little crooked, but here's our front bend like we talked about. It's right close up against the bead. There's no space in there, and that's how they are from the factory. So that one's in there, and then in the back we're going to have some a channel going around there, a tailgate support, so you can see we're in a little bit. And this isn't the piece, but it's going to lap on here like that, real close to the beads. Actually, it would be a little bit longer than that, but it's just a scrap piece, so you can see why you need the space there. So that's the back of it. And when you're bending this up, you got to be real accurate, because here's your rear cross sill. That's going to go on there. So you need everything to line up perfectly right here. This is the type of thing you can't really be off too much on your bends. Even something like 50 thousandths you'll see in the panels and stuff. So the bends have to be right on the money, both the length and the width, for the whole body tub to come out right. So there's a shot of it, and we'll keep moving on it. Okay, be right back with you. Okay, I was just telling you about making your bends very accurately on this floor, and there's probably a lot of computer programs that can show you this stuff, but I still go to the book and do it manually. These are your allowances for 90-degree bends, and it's explained pretty well in a lot of older press brake books and things like that, but you got to get a handle on how big your sheet length needs to be to get the right bends in there. So there's calculations and stuff, and you could find this stuff just about anywhere, probably on the internet. Just a bend allowance table for different kind of bends. You got square bends, reverse bends, and then you got some like in that corner where you got a whole bunch of square and reverse going on in the same panel, and it just gives you the amount to add or deduct from the sheet. Absolutely necessary when you're doing much sheet metal work. Otherwise your sheets are going to come out all messed up. So just a little bit. That's an old forming press dies and their uses. So you could pick these books up anywhere, or you could find the information on the internet, and that'll help you, so you don't wind up with too much material and you don't know what to do with it. So just a way to get your correct bends in there. Alright, so it's on to hat channel from here, and I've got a few samples on the bench. We're going to talk about them next. Okay, now if we were doing an original restoration, there's really no way around it. The floor would be 18 gauge, hat channel would be 18 gauge, and it would look something like this. This would be your floor hat channel, and you'd weld that in there and somewhere around there, and basically you'd have your floor with two pieces of hat channel in it. Sometimes you'd get wood in there, sometimes you wouldn't. It just depends on which Jeep you got coming down the line. But as everybody knows, the floors did get kind of wavy and stuff like that, and the 18 gauge just didn't do a real good job. So because this is a welder Jeep, and on that other Jeep I'm building that's a snowblower Jeep, they both have some heavy equipment in the back. So I put 4 pieces of hat channel in there, and it makes quite a bit of difference. You have to keep the one exactly in the right place where your rear bed bolts go down through the hat channel in the frame. That one can't be moved, and I keep the front one relatively in the same place, but then I add 2 more. Now with our 14 gauge floor, we're going to make 14 gauge hat channel. And here is a sample of what the blank looks like. I've got all the holes punched. I'm going to show you guys another way to do some spot welding, because I got a few messages about that. And I know not everybody has a spot welder, so we're going to show you some other ways to get that done. But as the years went by, on the CJ5 they changed up the hat channel and made it a little bit differently. And here's one that I got bent up. 14 gauge. And what they did is they put a couple 3/4 holes on each end, as you can see. And then they took and they put a V bead down the center. I'm going to take you over and show you some original looking ones that I did, and that's how we're going to make these. So let me get you over to that CJ5 snowblower Jeep that I'm building to show you what the hat channel looks like in there. Okay, here's the body that I'm building for that CJ5 Jeep. I'm under here with a flashlight. I hope you can see this okay. Right there on the end is one of those 3/4 holes I was talking about. And then down the center here, hope you can see that. I got flashlight and it's not great, but see the center bead they put in there, and they stopped it right about there. I hope you can see that all right. That's what we're duplicating. The CJ5, they seem to get things right. There's another one there spot welded in. I think you can see that. But they started to change up their hat channel, and it really started making a difference as far as things rotting out, and as far as the rigidity. So let me get out from under this one. Okay, there's the back end of it. We'll come back to that one of these days, but let's go back over and talk about the hat channel a little bit more. Okay, like I say, this is a sample piece I made, and it's finished. And when I get all 4 of them made, I've got some tooling for the pull max, and we'll come in here and I'll show you how I put that V bead in there. And being 14 gauge is going to be super rigid, and like I say, there's going to be 4 of them in there because we got that heavy welder sitting on this floor. So I've got all my blanks made. There's a couple more here. So we got 1, 2, I got 1 made, and then the 4th there. And I'll get those bent up, and I'll show you how we do that next. Okay, back over at the box and pan brake, and to make that hat channel, we're going to have to remove this apron here, because we need a reverse bend right close in there. We won't be able to use the apron. So it makes it a little tricky to bend, being it's 3 feet of 14 gauge. But let me show you the dies I use. Okay, you see how these are shaped. They're going to go in the machine, you know, flat like that. So that's what we got to work with. So, I mean, it's easy to make these hat channels on a press brake, but I realize not a lot of people have a press brake. So you see what we're after here is to get that. It's a pretty small piece of hat channel. So with these dies, it allows me to get that real tight hat channel without using a press brake. So just another way to do it if you don't have a whole bunch of machinery around. But a friend of mine made these for me, oh god, many years ago, and they've been working real good for me ever since. So we just started with a piece of solid material, milled that section away so it'll fit in our fingers here. So I'll get that set up, I'll get those bent up, and we'll see you soon. Okay, here's our piece in the brake, and our first bend is going to be a straight 3/4 bend up. And with the way we made those dies, we could just smack it right on right up at 90, and it won't go over or under. So that's going to be our first bend. and I'll show you how the rest of the hat channel comes along. Okay, I think you can see that. That's our first bend, 3/4, 90 degrees. And what we'll do now is take it out of there and do a reverse bend, and that one's going to be kind of tight, so let's see if I can keep the camera in here and show you. Okay, we take it out, flip it around this way, put it right against our bending apron there, and we'll clamp that back in place. Okay, and then we'll bring that up 90 degrees. Okay, you see what I mean about these dies being 90 degrees? They really help out. So we just bring it right against there tight, and that gives us a perfect 90. Okay, so now we'll go for the other bend. Okay, there's our piece with our first side done. Now what I did was I marked, I don't know if you can see that, I marked 3/4 on each end. Now that bend, it's going to look like it's going backwards, but we got to do the last bend in the third sequence. And so we'll get that in there, and it kind of looks like it's going to go in upside down, but I'll show you how we finish everything out. So I'm going to get that set up in there and bend that next. Okay, that's our third bend. You see the shape we got now. And this is where those dies that I showed you before come into play. I'm going to take this. Feed it in there like that, and now we'll have room with our dies there. Okay, here we go on the final bend. That 14 gauge without the bending apron on, it's pretty tough. We're just relying on that small piece right there to bend it up. Okay, so we'll fish this out now. Let's see if you can see this. Okay, there's our hat channel. And you see how the sequence was that we made that in. And it sits nice and flat. I don't know if you can see that either, but that'll sit nice and flat on there. And by pre-punching it, we got all our holes in there, and we don't have to go in afterwards and punch them. So that's why I do all the punching first. I could do it on the Rotex while the sheet's flat, and then we're ready to go. So I'll get the other two made, and then we'll set up the pole max. We're going to put those beads in there, and then we'll have our hat channel finished up, and we'll begin putting it on the floor. Okay, here's the 4 hat channels finished up. We're going to get those trimmed to size and fit on the floor. And like I say, when I put the hat channels in, I like to use a heavy piece of angle, channel actually, right along the edge where I'm going to put the piece in. That keeps the floor nice and rigid, and we'll work from one end, then we put the next one in sequential order till we get to the other end. So I usually start at the front and put them in until we get all the way to the back. And you'll see the panel with all the heat going in it and stuff. We'll start to do some funny things, but nothing we can't, fix in the end. So in this area here, the just where the floor riser is going to fit. We haven't made that yet, but I've got it cut out, and I'll show you how we make that next too. So like I said in the earlier one, this is hot rolled 14 gauge. So before I do any kind of welding or anything, I'm going to clean this off real good down to clean bright metal. If the weather ever changes and gives up all this humidity and stuff and it gets cool out, I may just take it in the back and sandblast it. And the same goes with the hat channel. You don't want to just put weldable primer or anything inside there when it's on the hot rolled steel. You want a clean base for that to go on. And you know, like I said, my supplier only had hot rolled this time around, so I wasn't able to get my normal cold rolled. So we can get around it. We'll either sand it, or like I say, if it gets a little bit cooler, we'll fire up the sandblaster and everything and get that really clean and put some epoxy primer on it and stuff. But we'll see what the days hold. We're gonna end it here today. Next time we'll set the pull max up. We'll quick put the beads in here, and you'll see just what kind of strength that adds. And you know, like I said, we've got these holes if we ever want to put any kind of undercoating in there. Or I use fluid film these days in the hard to reach areas. You can spray it right in there, and it really does a good job of keeping the rust away and the moisture and stuff like that. But now we have holes to get a wand in there or something, and it should work out real nice. So that's where we are today, and keep following along, and you'll see how things are coming and going with this. I've got some engine mounts to make for a guy, so I may film that for you and show you how I make some indestructible early Willys engine mounts. So I might do that tomorrow, and I'll post it on YouTube. And keep following along, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.